Hello, BookTube. I had an errand to run in downtown Boston this morning, first thing, and that put me within striking distance of the Brattle Bookshop, uh, and so I went. It's a used bookstore in the heart of downtown Boston. I've been going there for a long time, and it has a sale lot next to the store proper, an entire parking lot full of carts of books, $1, $3, and $5 a piece. That's where I spend most of my time. That's where I tend to josh and joke with the staff. That's where they tend to find me. And I got books at the Brattle this morning. I got an enormous number of books. Absolutely enormous. I'm looking at this pile and honestly wondering, as I always do, how I got it back here. I did not have a muscular teenager with me. I did not have any young people with me. I was all by myself. And yet, I got these back here somehow. How did I do it, baby? I should have put you on a sled. Oh, I should have, baby. Go. Oh. Somehow I got back here. And I had a wonderful visit. I chatted with everybody there, and also I was there for a little while when a young woman approached me in the sale lot and said, "Are you Steve Donahue?" It said that she has been watching my channel since she was in high school, and she's in college now. We took a selfie, and that was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And then later, about an hour later, an older man approached me and said that he also watches my channel. And he said the most wonderful thing, the kind of thing that just makes my day. He said that I have often commented that when I am feeling down in the dumps for any reason, a trip to the Brattle sale lot will really perk me up. And he said it was a very nice thing. He said that he often feels the same way about watching one of my videos. If he's having a bad day or he's off his feed just a bit, he watches one of my videos and it tends to make him feel better. How wonderful. How absolutely wonderful. Made me smile from ear to ear. Those of you who may need the encouragement, I don't know about other booktubers. Quite a few of my fellow booktubers, in fact, I would argue most of them, are mewling introverts. But for me, if you have the slightest inclination to approach me and say hi, please do. Please do. I don't object at all. I love it. It was wonderful. And then somehow I had to get back here. Now, I could make this easier for myself. I don't need muscular teenagers. It'd be great if I did have my crew of muscular teenagers. But I could just take a car. Instead of lugging things on the subway, I could take a car from the Brattle to my front door. I never do that. I'm sorry. I'm going on because I'm just staring at this pile. It is a waist-high pile of books, and I don't know how I got it back here. But let's go through them. And see what we have. So we'll start with a novel that I grabbed for Garb August, Criminali's beloved booktube event that is ongoing right now, where we read trash in the month of August. I got this because I read this once upon a time, back in the 70s, yes? The 70s? Oh, well, no. The Bantam edition was published in 1966. I read it shortly after. I read it in the 70s. But it didn't come out in the 70s. And I remembered it as being not only ridiculously talky, but also bad. So when I got it for $1, I thought, well, A, it'd be great to reread it, and B, it'd be apropos to reread it if it's garbage. And it's Philip Wiley. They both were naked. It's his big novel about the rich and famous, about the lives of the rich and famous. But if I remember correctly, it crams in a whole bunch of philosophy on all kinds of subjects, and never gracefully. I don't expect much grace from this author. Philip Wiley's entirely out of print now. He's entirely gone. He's entirely forgotten. Generation of Vipers was a big thing of his that got talked about a lot, got reviewed a lot, but it's gone. He's entirely gone. He casts a long shadow. In some ways, he near the beginning of his career, he wrote a book called The Gladiator, which was a big hit with two teenagers from the American Midwest called Siegel and Schuster, who ripped it off to make Superman. And Philip Wiley also wrote a novel about a savage gentleman, someone who is a colossus of a figure, a little bit out of place in the modern world. And the ink was scarcely dry before a hack writer ripped it off and made a character called Doc Savage. And so on and so forth. I mean, Philip Wiley wrote a novel about thermonuclear war and a secret program to develop a nuclear bomb before that was public knowledge, before it happened. And had a serious sit-down with U.S. law enforcement because of it. And so on and so forth, all throughout his career. And I think, considering how right he was in most of the visions that he had of the future and most of the things that he thought of as going ideas, it's pretty ominous that the subject that was obsessing him towards the end of his career was climate change, which in the 1970s no one was talking about. No one in the general public was talking about. I'm going to reread this for Garb August, and we will see what we will see. It is when I did a brief cursory look when I was here, and amazingly, it is my only Philip Wiley in paperback at all, in print and paper format. It's my only Philip Wiley. I don't currently have a copy of Gladiator, his proto-Superman book. Amazing. Okay, then how are we going to do this? How on earth are we going to do this? Okay, I found a bunch of science fiction anthologies. I love anthologies just anyway. I've always had a sweet tooth for them. You get so much bang for your buck attention-wise in an anthology because they can hair off in any direction. And you never know what any single story, any mention in a story could be a doorway to a whole new avenue of reading. So I found something. This is edited by Edward Furman, and it is the best of fantasy and science fiction. Fantasy and Science Fiction is a Squarebound science fiction magazine. I actually get it free with Kindle Unlimited. I don't know the last time I read it. But it has a long print history right now at the Brattle out in the sale lot. There are carts and carts, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of old Squarebound science fiction digest magazines, including God only knows how many back issues of the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. No idea. And this is the 22nd volume, I guess. They did 22 at least collections of stuff from their pages. And this was the only one I saw there, and I got it because the cover reminded me of my Basset Hound, Lucy. So we'll see who's actually. Let's see who's in here. We're not pressed for time. Let's see who's in here. Richard Cowper, John Varley, Joanna Russ, James Tiptree Jr., the women men don't see. What a story! Oh man, the climactic moment in that story visually will stick with you forever. Manly Wade Wellman. There's not a lot in here. This magazine might have gone for long form stuff. A little bit of nonfiction from Isaac Asimov. Something by Edward Wellen. R. Bretner. Yeah, there are names in here that I'm not familiar with. Good, great, fantastic. Just what I was talking about for an anthology. Then these next 4 anthologies are Terry Carr, the great editor Terry Carr, who did, among other things, a series of the year's best science fiction, starting with number 1 and going all the way almost to 20. Terry Carr was a really good picker. He never missed anything, and he was really good at building these anthologies, so they are all worth getting. But I usually see the earlier ones secondhand in paperback format. Today I found 4 of the later ones. I found number 13, big chunk missing there, but that's all right. Number 12, it was a dream come true to me when Terry Carr started being published by Timescape. It started having the Timescape label on there because I love them anyway. This is number 15. And this is number 10, which, oddly enough, even though it's got a very boring cover, I remember being really, really good. Let's see who's in number 10. Clifford C. Mack, Grotto of the Dancing Deer. Susie McKee Charnas, Michael Swanwick, Philip K. Dick, The Ugly Chickens is in this story by Howard Walbrot. Night Flyers by George R. R. Martin. Two great stories right there, back to back. Beatnik Bayou by John Varley. There's Lacroix by... there's Barry Malzberg. A couple of authors in here that I don't know. Slow Music by James Tiptree. Not as good as The Women Men Don't See, but still really good. And an essay by Charles Brown on the science fiction year, which would have been, what, 1982? 1981. Fantastic. Just great. So I found a bunch of those. Those were the only mass market paperbacks. So now we move on to even heavier stuff. So let's see, some trade paperbacks. We have this, I think it's a UK trade paperback of Amitav Ghosh's book, Sea of Poppies. His novel about the opium trade and the world of opium, the world of the opium trade, as seen through the viewpoint of a handful of very disparate characters. Haven't read it in decades, so glad to have another copy. I found a trade paperback of A.J. Smithers' book, A New Excalibur. This is his little history of the tank, the development of the tank, and its use in war and in various wars up to what he considered the present day, which was, I think, the 1980s. 1986. It's a good little study. I don't know that it or the Sea of Poppies are keepers, but I'm glad to have them. I mean, when things are $1 a piece, you can take a gamble. Can we do other trade paperbacks? Yes. Okay. I found this thing. I am not good. I don't have the instincts of a collector. I don't really collect things for value or rarity, but I have the feeling that this is not common. I'll be very interested in reading it. Anyway, it's another anthology. It's the Omnibus of Science Fiction by Grand Groff Conklin. By Moft Conklin. And I don't think I've ever seen this before. So who is in here? Oh, wow, this is falling apart. This is from, let's see here, 1968? Something like that? Well, anyway, who is collected in here? Oh, Steve hates this. Put the table of contents before everything. There we go. Let's see here. Elsbreg de Camp. Fletcher Platt. David Grinnell. Mark Clifton. Theodore Sturgeon. James Blish. Anne Griffith. R.R. Winterbottom. H.P. Lovecraft, The Color Out of Space. Anthony Boucher, The Star Dummy. Well, that's going to be interesting to read Anthony Boucher. Damon Knight's Catch That Martian. Homo Saul by Isaac Asimov. There's Trigger Tide by Wyman Gwynn. Kaleidoscope by Ray Bradbury. Alexander the Bait by William Tenn. A lot of names in here that I'm not all that familiar with. Murray Leinster, Jack Vance. John D. McDonald has a story in here. Spectator Sport. A.E. Van Vogt has Recruiting Station. Boy, there aren't many stories in here that I've read. The Scarlet Plague by Jack London I have read. History Lesson by Arthur Clarke I have read. Instinct by Lester Del Rey I have read. And Test Piece by Eric Frank Russell I think I've read. I have a collection of his. Haven't read many of these. Okay, that's going to be very interesting. No idea if there were more of these, if it was ever followed up. And then we have the last science fiction anthology of this haul. It was a neat little trade paperback. I had this as a mass market paperback eons ago. This was the 1990s, I think. 1992. This is Universe 2, edited by Robert Silverberg. He did a science fiction anthology of his own. Robert Silverberg is also a pretty good picker. I have no idea about Grand Moff Conklin. I have no idea what kind of a picker he is. That's the essential thing for a science fiction anthology. It's the eye of the editor, obviously. And these universe collections, especially the earliest ones, were really good, really strong. So let's see what Robert Silverberg picked. Let's hope that he did not include himself. Mark Tiedemann, Carrie James, John Gibbons, Brian Aldiss, okay. Deborah Wessel, Alex Jeffers, John Landsberg, then Barry Malzberg. Sean McMullen, that must have been fairly early. Tony Daniel, Joe Haldeman, Donna Farley, Nicholas DiCario, Kathy Koja, okay, great, Paula May, Dirk Strasser, then Jonathan Layson. There's barely anybody in here that I know. All of these names are completely unknown to me. Okay, great. That's going to be a voyage of discovery. So those were the paperbacks. And then we have 100 pounds of hardcovers. Starting with an old hardcover, this, of course, is available on Project Gutenberg for free. And I could not remember when I saw it in the sale lot. I could not remember for the life of me if I actually had a copy already. So I grabbed it. I mean, it was $1. Nobody's going to want it but me. It's the literary essays of James Russell Lowell. And this old volume here. There were this was a 4-volume set of his various writings, one of which is explicitly literary. This thing has essays on Pope, Milton, Dante, Spencer, and Wordsworth. And they are great. They are infinitely revisitable. I don't remember if I have this or not. I will look for it, but I didn't feel like I was taking a hardcover out of the mouth of a babe because no one's going to want it but me. James Russell Lowell is great. I've written about him many times. I've read everything there is to read about him. I have, probably outside of the Massachusetts Historical Society, the largest collection of books on James Russell Lowell. I think he's fascinating and brilliant to read. Then we have hardcover. This is Edith Hamilton. This is The Greek Way. Her overview discussion of all the Titanic Greek figures, whether it's Herodotus and Thucydides or Plato and Aristotle. And I have this book as a mass market paperback that is falling apart. I also have this mass market book in an omnibus edition. I have this neat omnibus edition. It's actually in the little book room of her book, The Greek Way and the Roman Way, where she does the same thing for Roman authors, together in one book. And I found that thing and I thought, oh, how neat this is. And I hate it. Absolutely hate it. I like Edith Hamilton's company very much. I always have. And I don't want an omnibus. I want the Greek Way and the Roman Way separate. Preferably in these cute, very, very minimal little hardcovers. So I found the Greek Way, and I will just hope to find the Roman Way somewhere or other down the line in something like this. She's really, really enjoyable to read on these things. Then we have James Morris. This is Farewell the Trumpets. This is the third and final book in the Pax Britannica trilogy. It's called An Imperial Retreat. There you have Queen Victoria and Winston Churchill on the cover to give you a sign of the time period involved here, from the end of Victoria's reign to the end of the British Empire at the end of World War II. James Morris did it this trilogy. It was At Heaven's Command, then Pax Britannica, and then Farewell the Trumpets. I love these books. I have always loved them since the 1980s, the 1990s. When did you come out? I have always loved these books. They're so wonderfully written. Well, this is 1978. Okay. And I have a particular desire, a particular aesthetic desire when it comes to these books. The trade paperbacks that have these covers, this cover design, mostly one color, green, blue, and purple, with illustrations inset inside the cover. This edition, there's trade paperbacks of this particular design are the ones that I've read and the ones that I've had forever, and they fall apart. They are not well made. So I have been in the Sisyphean task of buying and rebuying those trade paperbacks, because every time I've found hardcovers of this series, I haven't liked their design. And the reason I get to be picky is because the Brattle will provide. The Brattle is always out buying books. Their turnover is enormous. So I get to be picky. I want to own and revisit in hardcover the Pax Britannica trilogy, but I want the hardcovers with this design, not the trade paperbacks, and not the hardcovers with some other design. I want the hardcovers with this design. And I feel certain that I found one of these last year. And I can't remember if it was Farewell the Trumpets or not. I can't remember which one it was. So I'm going to have to do a search of my incredibly unruly book collection to find it and see, did I buy a double today? Or do I have only one book left to find? I think it was Pax Britannica itself, the middle volume on the glorious pinnacle of the Victorian era. I think that was the one that I found. But I'm not sure. I need to find that volume first before I will know. Is that easy to do? No. The way my books are now, that is not easy to do. So I need to find it, but I can strongly, strongly recommend this trilogy. It was the last thing James Morris wrote before he became Jan Morris. And it's great. It's impressionistic. It's incredibly memorable, full of illustrations. There are illustrations all throughout this thing. So very happy to find this, and it will send me on a hunt. Where is the other volume that I found, and which one is it? Did I get a double or not? No idea. Because my book collection right now, my printed paper book collection right now, is not controlled. It's completely out of control. It's not just a question of the superiority of my Kindle over any of this crap, because with my Kindle, I press the little button, I turn it on, I wait for it to turn on, I tap the top, a bar opens up, and I say to it, essentially, where is James Morris? James Morris, find me all of it. A second later, it has found all of James Morris, in all the different covers, in all the different editions, everything I have. Do my print and paper books do that? No, they do not. I stand in the little book room and I say, James Morris, where are you? And I'm met with dead silence. Anyway, then this next one I have had before. I've read this many times. This is Will Manners. This is his book T.R. and Will. And this is about Theodore Roosevelt and William Howard Taft. Their friendship and then their tumultuous break in politics where Theodore Roosevelt impulsively said that he would not run for another term. And rather than simply take that back and say, I've reconsidered, he didn't run for another term. In other words, his handpicked successor, William Howard Taft, ran for on that ticket instead of him. And that was never going to work. That was never going to work. William Howard Taft could have taken his stump speeches directly from the pen of Theodore Roosevelt and recited them word for word. He would still have come under criticism from the colonel. It would never have worked. So there was a rift, a fairly important rift between them. Theodore Roosevelt, of course, it was largely an inaccurate rift and largely the product of Theodore Roosevelt's mania. Theodore Roosevelt was known as a trust buster and someone who rammed through legislation and held giant monopoly-hungry companies accountable. But William Howard Taft did more of that busting in his own term than Roosevelt did. Anyway, not to get on the subject of William Howard Taft, but I have been slowly accumulating. I used to have, when I was writing a book about Taft, an enormous book about Taft, an enormous unreadable book about Taft. And at the time, I accumulated every Taft and Roosevelt book in the world. I paid to have doctoral theses printed out for me. Talked with all kinds of people, had volumes and volumes and volumes of correspondence and letters. And once I got that book and also its deformed identical twin out of my system, I got rid of most of those books. And I've been slowly reaccumulating them because I find this whole subject so fascinating. So now I have this one. I don't need many more before I have all the essentials. We're not done. We're not even close to done. Okay, the next one is Jack Batty, the great Jack Batty, who wrote The Rascal King, a biography of James Michael Curley, the legendary mayor of Boston. I believe this is the last book that he has ever written. This is The Lost History of 1914, for those of you who want to become World War I guys. This is his interpretation of the start of the war. Are we interpreting the start of the war correctly? The start of World War I, the way that it started, the systems involved that got it kicked off, has been the subject of a cottage industry of books on its own, apart from studies of the war. And this is Jack Batty's entry in that whole sweepstakes. I remember when it first came out, not being all that impressed with it, but I know that's wrong. That impression is certainly wrong on my part. So I will just read it again and be impressed by it. Then we have David Kennedine. I love this writer, and I look for his hardcovers whenever I can. I think that this is... I don't think I have a hardcover of this. Again, I briefly went looking, and that didn't go over well. That didn't work at all. Could not find this at all. So I think if I have this, I have it as a rather flimsy trade paperback. This is history in our time, but don't be fooled by the grandiosity of the title. This is just book reviews. This is a collection of book reviews on a theme. It's amazing how reviewers, what they get a little time under their belt, and those old pieces of their writing are just sitting there, and no one's looking at them anymore. The paper that they appeared in is long gone and yellowed to bird feed or whatnot. But they think their works are good, so they want to republish them. I don't know, put them together in a themed anthology and call it The Books of Power or History in Our Time or something grandiose like that. I swear, there's no living with book critics. Fortunately, Kennedy is great. So these are essays on the royal marriage of Charles and Diana, Princess Diana herself, the Queen, and at the time, 30 years ago, the royal family, Lord Mountbatten, a whole bunch of the things. Technically, nominally, reviews of books about those things at the time, but he was allowed to expand quite a bit because he's really, really good. He's a really, really quotable writer. The question will be, the gambit will be, do I have this already? I think I have a trade paperback of it, in which case a hardcover that will take a lot more annotation will be a godsend. But I need to control my books. I need to just work extra hard on all the deadline stuff, get it done, and spend a whole afternoon and evening on the books. And, not only do I not tend to do that, but also I'm a little reluctant to do it because I like to do that sort of thing with somebody. And I have been notoriously barren of house guests for quite some time. I like to do that with somebody. But anyway, I am going to attend to it because you've seen already several of these books. I need to know whether or not I have copies in the house already, and just bought doubles and lugged 1,000 pounds of books back here. This next one I know is not a double. I had the advanced copy of this from the publisher, then I had the finished copy, I reviewed it, and then I got rid of everything. But I've been thinking about it ever since, and I've also had occasion to recommend it to some of you. So I figured if I'm thinking about it still and I recommend it, I ought to own it. It's Mike Duncan. It's The Storm Before the Storm, with a Roman gladius on the cover there. It's his history. It's not very long, but it's very well done. His history of the way the Roman Republic came to a boil and boiled over into dictatorship, and who the key players were. It's an incredibly well-documented time in history. So it is possible to write an almost minute-by-minute account of what people were doing, the key players, what they were saying, where they were, what they were writing, who knew who. And this is really well done. It's really engaging. So I grabbed it. Now I will have it on my Roman history shelf, which was well-behaved, but thanks to all the Roman history books that are coming out in 2025, and thanks to this, it's not well-behaved anymore. Now there's no room on that shelf anymore. The books need to be taken care of. They need to be dealt with. This next one, I grabbed it just because I was having a senior moment. Wasn't sure that I had it. Wasn't sure that it was in good condition. It's the Collected Stories of John Chver in the iconic big red hardcover. These are great. They are great. Chver is a great short story writer. I would say, it's absolutely true. I would say that Chver is also great for Dude Bros. He has all the requisite things that they require in an author. He himself was a brittle alcoholic. He hates women and very much shows it in most of these stories. His men have the worldview and the priorities and also the fighting temptations of Cro-Magnon men from 18 million years ago. So you'd think he'd be Dude Bro Gold, and yet they have not ever found him. I think probably he repulses them because he was gay. I can't think of any other reason, unless maybe it's because he's also genuinely talented. These stories are genuinely brilliant. Him and Frank O'Hara have not been found by, or John O'Hara have not been found by Dude Bro, by the Dude Bro world. But boy, oh boy, are these good. But I checked, and this is a double. And there's nothing wrong with the double with the copy that I already have. In fact, I have 2 copies of this in the little book room. I have a copy of this, and I also have a vintage red spine trade paperback that I got at the Book Barn. The only thing I'm missing is the equally iconic mass market paperback of this, which I haven't seen in decades. So I don't need it, obviously, because I have the book. But this thing is, in fact, a double. So it either has to go, or it needs to be part of some sort of channel giveaway. I don't tend to do channel giveaways because you're all free to email me at any time about what you want anyway. But maybe I should. I don't know. Okay, then we are narrowing down here. I found 2 books that I don't want to show you because I want to. I think they're a gift. But I found a gigantic book. All of these books, I cannot imagine how I got these back here. I'm a frail, doddering old man, and yet I got these things back here. And this is something I've praised many, many times on this channel. Again, I could not remember if I still had the trade paperback that I got from the Book Depository a million years ago. I checked. I do not appear to have this book at all, trade paperback or hardcover, and I want it because there have been times, many times in the last 5 or 6 years when I've wanted to go back to it. And it's The Third Reich by Michael Burleigh. Big history of the Third Reich. And I don't want to be a one-book guy on any subject at any time. I don't want necessarily to be a one-book guy. William Shire's book, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, is brilliant. It is great. I don't think it really can be improved on. But this book is brilliant too. There's no reason why I can't read 2 books on the subject. And I mean, it was $3, so I grabbed it. It's well worth a reread anyway. And then with this last one, we can finish up with this last one. I found an anthology of St. Nicholas, which has a lot of the original artwork, spot illustrations and everything. St. Nicholas was a children's magazine for a long time, for almost a century. It was a beloved children's magazine from like the middle of the 19th century to almost the middle of the 20th century. It was, for a lot of that time, it was put together by Mary Mapes Dodge. This redoubtable editor, Mary Mapes Dodge, who would not take no for an answer from any literary figure in the world. She wanted them all. She wanted the very best material for the young boys and young girls who were reading her magazine and who were devoted to it. The young boys and young girls loved this magazine. St. Nick's, they called it, and they doted on it. They doted on her as well. They doted on Mary Mapes Dodge. They sent her fan mail and all sorts of letters. Plenty of people every day. She got some letter from some young person asking her for advice, life advice, just life advice. I'm not getting along with my father. That sort of thing. She took it very, very seriously. She's probably most famous in the literary world because she invented Hans Brinker or the Silver Skates. But for the longest time, this was her main claim to fame: is that she was the editor of St. Nicholas. I imagine that a lot of the pieces that are anthologized in here will be her handiwork. I would have to double check with the big, lovingly detailed biography of her as a pioneeringly powerful female magazine editor at the heyday of the American magazine world. I would have to double check with that. Oh wait, that biography's never been written. But we're on our 7,000th biography of Leonardo da Vinci. Is that right? Yeah, that biography's never been written. Anyway, I don't want to rant about it, but it deserves to be. It should be. But let's see who's in here. This volume is edited by Henry Steele Commager, who's not known anymore, but whose books are great. St. Nicholas was pitched for young boys and young girls around grade school era, grammar school era, around that age. But mainly in the 1880s. That was the heyday, the 1880s and the 1890s. And pitching material for young children in the 1880s and 1890s would make that material have a difficulty level in 2025 of roughly postgraduate. So this isn't going to read like children's literature at all to the morons that constitute academia today. So, but who is in here? Probably a who's who. Dorothy Canfield, of course. There were a couple of books of hers in the sale lot that I didn't get. Howard Pyle, Joel Chandler Harris, Theodore Roosevelt is in here. Right, his piece on buffalo hunting. Alfred Lord Tennyson. I know that Edna St. Vincent Millay could not say no to this particular editor. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Albert Bigelow Payne, who's not known anymore, unfortunately. Rudyard Kipling, great. James Whitcomb Riley, Bret Hart, Gladys Hasty Carroll. Oh my God! Oh, I'm gonna read that right away. She's not known anymore. Oh my. Laura Ingalls Wilder, Sidney Lanier, Julian Hawthorne, a whole bunch of illustrations by Arthur Rackham that I think are original to St. Nicholas. Who else? Who else's names might be known? A lot of these names, I know them because I'm very familiar with the magazine world of ye bygone days. But where are... there's Jack London. You'll know that name. William Stoddard. I know so many of these names. Oh, my God. Frances Hodgson Burnett. There we go. Louisa May Alcott. An old-fashioned Thanksgiving. Mary Mapes Dodge has a story in here of her own. The Crow Child. Elizabeth Stewart Phelps. Oh, my God. Oh, my. William Dean Howells is in here. Edna St. Vincent Millay. There we go. Eudora Welty. Stephen Vincent Benet. Another Edna St. Vincent. Edna... St. Vincent Millay. Who else we got in here? Anybody that we will know? Cornelia Otis Skinner. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm very happy to have this. Another Stephen Vincent Benet. Any other famous names before we finish up? No, not really. Not really. Oh, this is going to be wonderful. Look at that. The Continental Army drilling on Cambridge Common. Oh, my God. This is going to bring back such memories. So very happy to have this. And there you go. That was my trip to the Brattle this morning, which was wonderful. It was totally enlivened by being approached by people who view this channel. People that I've never met before. People I don't know they're out there. We don't know who's watching our channel. It reminded me of something I often say to the few booktubers who actually can stand me well enough to befriend me. I've often pointed out to them that when all of this is over, I've said it on this channel, when all of this is over and done with, and there's no such thing as this amateur broadcasting business anymore, and we've all moved on, and there's no such thing as BookTube anymore. When all of this is over, those of us who were in this position of making these videos, we're going to look back on this as the wildest, weirdest period of our life. Where suddenly we, ordinary people, would be walking around and people would recognize us. And it would be a thing they want to do to find us and say hi and take a selfie. It's astonishing. I love it. I never tire of thinking about it. But anyway, there we go. So I have a huge Brattle haul. I have no idea how I got these books back. I'm going to keep there. There are books that I didn't show you. It's 100 pounds of books. That I just... Anyway, now that the fun is over, the toil begins. Because now I have to find out where any duplicates of these books are. That little volume of the collected literary essays of James Russell Lowell. Do I have that already? Somewhere? I can't find it. Hard to believe I don't. You'd think it would be on the bookcase with books about books and authors and writing and whatnot, but it's such a favorite of mine that it might be in the room. It might be in the little book room. The Michael Burleigh, the Third Reich history is obvious because it's so big. It's easy to see whether or not I have it or not. I have all my World War II books in one place. But the John Chver, I totally forgot that I already have a copy. And what about all the other things in here? Where are they? Where is the rest of the James Morris? Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.